Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, what you're looking at right now is a camel that has dropped dead. It dropped dead due to thirst. This camel is from a region called Cholistan in Pakistan. It's a desert that's been struck by a drought. It's excessively hot right now and the water has not come. And the animals are dropping like this all over. What you have to understand about this place, that it is a community that lives off the cattle, they live off the animals. When the animals start dying, know that the humans are going to start dying next. The way these animals are dropping on the streets out of thirst, they're dropping dead. Humans will start dropping dead like this very, very shortly if they do not get the aid and the help with the permission of Allah. We're currently raising funds on behalf of Humanity Care Relief to set up filtration plants so that this community can get water for their animals and for themselves to drink from and to do tahara from, to do wudu and ghusl from. These children here mentioned this animal died of thirst because it had no decent water to drink. Please, I ask you to donate as generously as you can for Allah's sake, the link below, so we can make a change for these people's lives in the long term. And I ask you to do this quickly before you watch the video. Just pause, make that donation, and then carry on watching, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Just a quick disclaimer before you get into this video. This video, we do touch upon some explicit topics. So if you are watching this, maybe with children, parental guidance is advised. Nothing like ridiculously vulgar or anything like that, but we just talk about issues of intimacy and things. So I would advise, if you're watching this as a parent, I know a lot of people watch this with their children, our channel, this one, if you're comfortable with that, feel free to watch it, inshallah. And remember, if they don't learn it from the right sources, they're going to learn it from the wrong sources. So that's a decision you need to make as a parent. And if you're a young child watching this, maybe show your parent this intro and let them decide whether, you're allowed to watch it or not. With that said, let's get into the episode. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'ad, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers and sisters, welcome back to another episode of Relationship Goals. That's right, the marriage podcast sponsored by the one and only Sunnah Match, the app there to help you find the right one in the right way. And if I'm not mistaken, right now, by the time this video comes out, it might not be there anymore, but there's a last chance promo where you can get unlimited access and maybe even unlimited requests. Or was that either only?
It's unlimited access right now.
Unlimited access for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So even if you get married and then afterwards you want to get remarried, or remarried or remarried, then you can use it for the rest of your life, basically, right? But it's not transferable, though, right? You can't say, "Oh, I've got married now, I'm gonna give it to my brother."
No, it's just for you. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not just about that. Sometimes it could take you 2-3 years to get married, man. Sometimes it could take you 4-5 years.
That's
you know
true as well.
So a lot of these apps, they charge you monthly, and you'll be paying monthly. Here, it's a one-off, and you can use it.
And one-off, and it's like
£50.
£50 for the rest of your life.
Yeah, 40. I think £40. Like if you use the promo code,
ridiculously
click the
cheap,
link below.
basically.
Yeah, inshallah ta'ala.
That's if it's still available. By the time this comes out, the new app
it's
might
only
be around.
available until the new app comes out.
Yeah, so if the new app comes out and everything, it's not going to be there anymore. So make the most of it while you can. Click the link in the description. The code will be there. Everything will be there. So we're back after a very, very long time, right? It's been over a year.
Over a year.
Yeah. The last episode we did were in Dubai, right?
Yeah.
And that was in summer of 2021. And now we're in 2022. We're here in the new studio. This isn't the complete set. We are planning to, inshallah, there's a lot more that needs to be added. But we thought, what's more important right now is get the content out there. Because at the end of the day, that's what the most important thing is, the content. So today's episode is it's going to ruffle some feathers. Some of you watching this are going to be upset by some of the statements that we make. But you know what? That's part of life. And that's the day and age that we live in. People are overly sensitive.
I think that's going to be the theme of relationship goals from now on generally.
I thought that's going to be the theme of everything we do moving forward.
Alhamdulillah.
We've got that attitude now. I've left TFL, so I don't need to be politically correct anymore. So, anyone can get it. As we say, as they say, ACG, anyone can go. So right now, you guys aren't safe. No one's safe right now.
That can just beep out that, just cut that out because, when you say they're not safe, that's...
And safe in Arabic means sword.
Yeah. So when you edit this part, I might just...
Yeah, if you say you're safe or you're not safe, either way, it's speaking it. Okay, anyway, so listen. Today's episode, we're going to talk about being desirable. Now, what does that mean? So we're going to be talking about, from a variety of different angles, making sure that you are the best version of yourself pre-marriage, during marriage, post-marriage, collectively, all together, right? So the first question that I want to ask you, Imran, because obviously you came up with the idea for this topic.
Mm.
Is why are we talking about this topic today?
So actually, this topic, I actually started thinking about it quite deeply about a year and a half ago. Me and Aman, we were on a trip. Went to a particular country, particular city we were in. There was a brother, may Allah bless him, he came to visit me. We had a mutual friend, and he wanted to meet, so we met in my hotel room. And the brother was going for a divorce at the time, right? Very nice brother, mashallah, tabarakallah, but going through a difficult stage in his life. So he was quite passionate, wanted to talk about the problems that he went through, because he felt that these problems are not just exclusive to him. In fact, men are going through these issues with regards to their wives en masse.
If I'm not mistaken, he had friends that were going through similar issues.
Many,
as well.
and we have friends that are going through similar issues, right? And to be honest, it's a very common thing now. From the things that he brought to my attention, which he went through, was his wife not beautifying herself for him. Okay, and he felt quite passionate about the fact that, why is it that these sisters, we marry them for their religion? Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that a woman is married for 4 things. Okay, li جمالها ومالها وحسبها ودينها فاظفر بذات الدين تربت يداك, or كما قال, you marry a woman for her status, her lineage, you marry her for her wealth, you marry her for what? Her beauty or her religion. These are the 4 reasons why guys marry girls. But the Prophet said, you marry her for her religion. فاظفر بذات الدين. But of course, at the same time, we know a woman should look beautiful for her husband, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ was asked, أَيُّ النِّسَاء خَيْرٌ, which woman is the best of women? And then the Prophet ﷺ answered by saying, الَّتِي تَسُرُّهُ إِذَا نَظَرَ. It's the one that makes you happy when you look at her. So when you look at her, she's beautified herself for you. She looks good for you. Does that make sense? So you look for the deen, but then the woman must beautify herself. And we're going to come back to this hadith shortly, inshallah ta'ala, because it's a very important hadith about our discussion. So yes, look for the deen, but then the Prophet at the same time said that the best wife or best women are the ones that when you look at them, you feel what? You feel happy. So she's got deen, but she's beautifying herself for you at the same time. Does that make sense? So he said, look, he married a sister for her deen. Now, when you marry a woman for her deen, you expect her to implement the deen when it comes to marriage as well, right? Amongst many problems that he mentioned, one he mentioned was that she just wouldn't beautify herself for him. She was lazy. And a lot of women are like this. They're lazy, right? They're just lazy. Some say, I'm busy, blah, blah. We'll discuss all of these. But her situation was just downright lazy. You've got a guy who's providing for you. You've got no job, no work, no nothing. And you are just lazy. He said she was putting on weight. She was eating. And like things like, for example, basic things. She wouldn't shave herself for him. And we're not just talking about in the private regions, like, like body,
arms,
right,
legs.
right. And it's sad because, he mentioned that he saw a picture of her before when she was young, before she used to wear the hijab, before she used to wear the niqab, when she was in her jahiliyyah. And he said she was a stunner. Like he actually described her as a woman that when she would walk into a place, like the guy's head would turn. You know what I'm saying? But now she got married, it's what? Put on weight and get hairy. And by the way, this is just to mention, there is a disclaimer. This Relationship Goals podcast is not for children. We're going to be talking about very direct and important matters that are important for relationships, right? So I just want to mention, that
I think maybe I should also record an intro that
Yeah.
we put at the beginning.
Just so we can comfortably discuss things that adults need to hear. In the books of fiqh, a lot of these issues are discussed, right? Sometimes very, very direct.
At the same time, we're not going to be vulgar or,
not at all.
stuff like that.
And like the brother mentioned, and this is a thing that a lot of brothers, they suffer from, is like sometimes that, look, akhi, men are easily aroused, okay? They, generally speaking, have very high libidos, sometimes, not in all cases, but sometimes, many times, more than their wives, right? So it's like, when a man's in the moment, he can forget about the way his wife looks because he's just doing whatever he's doing. But he actually mentioned that the unattraction got so bad, and I've not just heard this from him, I've heard it from others as well. It got so bad that it made him impotent. Like, as in, whilst he's engaging with her in the act, feeling your woman who's supposed to be feminine, her hair's rubbing against your skin, he said, it made me feel impotent. Like, as in, he was not able to carry on the action. And I think you guys should understand what I'm saying, right? So, then he said something that kind of didn't sit well with me. He said, Imran, Habibi, why is it that it's only the fusaq the woman who is a fasiqa, which means the sinner, the rebellious one, that knows how to take care of her body, that knows how to look good. And I said, Akhi, I
The
disagree.
non-practicing sisters.
Non-practicing sisters, the ones going to the clubs. He's saying the ones who are going to the clubs, the ones who are sleeping around with people, the ones who are on the beach, blah, 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 blah. He said, why is it that these are the women are the only ones that look good, and our practicing sisters don't know? They don't know how to look good. And I said, I disagree with you there. Because
For a variety of reasons, you don't know what they look like because you don't see them other than the ones obviously you get married to.
right, does that make
They're
sense?
covered.
No, but not just that, we have a good assumption of our sisters.
Yeah, of course.
And there are many sisters that, and you know how I know that they exist? Because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned it. تزوج الودود الولود أو كما قال. He said, marry a woman who is, waduda means she wants to do whatever she can to make her husband happy. Some women, they live for themselves. Some women, they live, obviously, after Allah, for their husbands. She knows this man provides for me. This man takes care of me. This man.
So the question is,
clothes me.
how common is this? That's the question. Then,
The problem is, unfortunately, in this day and age, it's becoming very, very common. Does that make sense?
very, very common to
amongst practicing sisters
to not.
take care of themselves. Does that make sense? And for a multiplicity of reasons, right? Which we can talk about later, but I'm just going through the story and what the brother mentioned. So I disagree with him. I said, Akhi, look, you can't make blanket statements like that. There are some righteous women that do take care of themselves. They do take care of their husbands. But he was mentioning, look, there is a reputation that is growing for women who are practicing to let themselves go. Does that
And
make
he's
sense?
in a Muslim country.
And he's in a Muslim country. Does that make sense? So he said this to me, and this started to play on my mind. And you know, sometimes you don't see things that are red in the room until someone says how many things in the room are red, and suddenly you can spot like 10.
Yeah. Or if you buy a car, suddenly you see that same car everywhere,
That same
but
car
before you
everywhere.
never noticed it.
Never noticed it, right? So when he spoke to me about this, I started to realize this is a problem that's everywhere. Brothers are constantly, struggling with this. And you know what's sad? Is that the brothers are made to be criminalized. They're made to be criminalized for wanting their wife to beautify herself for him, right? We live in a day and age where, Akhi, holding on to your deen is holding on to hot coal.
100%.
Like the Prophet mentioned, a time will come where you get the reward of 50 companions. We assume this may be that time. Like, it's very hard. You don't want your husband to talk about second wife. You don't want your husband to talk about, divorcing you. Okay? At the same time, you don't want to give him a reason to be committed to you. You know, like Allah talked about the women of Jannah, وَقَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ. They are women, and wallahi, a lesson should be taken here. If I'm not mistaken, it was Imam Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti rahmahullah ta'ala. If I'm not mistaken, took a fa'idah from this ayah. وَقَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ means she's made your eyes restricted to her. You can't look anywhere else, akhi. You can't look anywhere else. Why? She's beautiful. She takes care of herself for you. وَقَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ. Sister, why don't you take a lesson from the women of Jannah? You're going to be one of them one day, inshallah, right? Inshallah. We hope. How are they there? This shows it's a characteristic of a righteous wife to make herself look beautiful, desirable. Does that make sense? To put on the clothes that he wants her to wear, fragrance, makeup, to move the way he wants her to move. Does that make sense? وَقَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ. He has to walk in the room and he doesn't see anything. He forgets. He looks at her. I can't see anything else. Does that make sense? I see her. Now,
everything that he's seen during the day while he's out and about, he's working, he's out and about.
That's all affecting him.
And especially, we live in the West, right? We live in the UK. So
even in Muslim countries,
even the Muslim country, but the Muslim countries are better. Of course, there are places within Muslim countries. Of
course.
But generally speaking, the point I'm making is that when you go out and about as a man, which you have to, you got to provide for your family. You see filth. Especially, and even if you lower your gaze, you see filth. You look up, you see filth. Like wherever you look,
that billboards,
whatever it might be, there's filth everywhere, right? So, in order to protect yourself, what you're going back to has to, at the very least, it should be at the same level, if not better, than that which you're exposed to. Because at the end of the day, a man, at the end of the day, you're going to be more inclined towards that which is better, right?
And that which is halal.
And that which is halal. So what you're going back to should at the very least, and this is the thing, right, is that I feel like, especially in this day and age that we live in, there's this whole, body positivity and this, that, whatnot. We're like, if you use the word fat, you get cancelled. You can't say someone's fat. No, they just
Really?
like even.
But
with,
then,
like,
what do you want us to lie to you?
And they make it seem as being fat is healthy, as in that you can be fat and be healthy,
Like heart attacks,
so that's what I'm saying. So
cardiac
obviously then there's a
disease,
science behind it,
diabetes.
that says all of these things that obesity is a disease. So some say no, it's not. It's a condition. But at the end of the day, you can be more healthy by being fat. And not like nowadays they want to include plus size models into this, that, whatnot. Like the point that I'm making is, at the same time, being anorexic is also a problem.
Can I just mention though
Yeah.
that sometimes people have weight issues and
Of
they
course.
can't do anything about it.
Of course.
Like for example, Muhammad, the scholars are never fat, and the scholars always criticize people being fat. And Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala said, "La yuflihu saminun qat," that a fat man will never be successful. Illa Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, except for Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, who was a great Hanafi scholar from Iraq. And he was known to be a man who didn't eat much. He was known to be a man who was zahid. He was away from the dunya. But he had
There are some people who
they have a
condition.
somatotype. They have a body type that just
No, I agree.
you just naturally put
But I'm
weight.
saying
We're not talking about those
For a lot
people.
of people, though, it's a cop out.
Oh, of
for a
course.
lot of people, it's a
The
cop-out.
overwhelming majority of people.
It's a
Akhi,
lifestyle.
Go take
The
a jog.
food you eat, you're eating processed.
Go take
food.
a jog, bro.
You're not active.
Do some
All
squats.
these things. All these
Push-ups,
things.
sit-ups.
And by the way, as you mentioned with the sheikh, it comes down to brothers also. We'll come to brothers at the end. Don't worry, sisters. Don't worry. We're gonna come to the brothers as well. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Right now we're just focusing on the sisters because that's just the way the story was, right? But right now, so this is, I feel like, part of the problem, right? This is one part of the problem, which is this concept of you should feel comfortable in your body, however it is. It doesn't matter. Love yourself for who you are, and this, that, whatnot. Like at the end of the day, remember your body is an amana from Allah. We don't believe in this. It's your body, do whatever you want with it. No, your body is from Allah. You have a trust. This is an amana. You have to take care of this trust, and not only that, for your husband also, and as a husband for your wife also. You got to make sure you're in shape, you're fit, you're attractive, because a lot of people do that before marriage to get married. Before they're married, you see them, they look fresh, trim, and haircut, and whatnot. He's looking good, smelling good. Obviously, I assume sisters do the same. And then as soon as they're married, it's like, oh, I don't need to do that anymore because I've already secured the bag.
And that's terrible. And it's like I said, let's come to, we always use relationship goals. We talk about one gender first
And come to the brothers
and come
after.
to the gender,
Yeah.
next gender after. Gender, sex, toss is the same thing, right?
Yeah. Gender and?
Sex. The separation of gender and sex?
No, I think they're two separate things, but what we say that we still believe that they're both binary. It's male and female and man and woman.
Whatever it is,
I think, yeah.
I'm talking about dudes and girls. We're going to talk about the girls first. We're going to talk about the guys after, inshallah ta'ala. Anyways, the point I'm making is, there's a terrible thing now. Does that make sense? Like some guys, for them, the only, as in, their wives will only get dressed when they're going out.
Like a wedding or
whatever have
family, Eid.
Do you know what I'm saying? And sometimes women, they like to, there's a lot of these posts that go around nowadays, yeah? Women become mums. I guess they try to make themselves feel good about them, displeasing their husbands. And women, then they cling on to these things. The post will read something like, and I've seen so many of these, this is my life. I wake up in the morning, I clean the baby's diapers. You want me to clean the baby, feed the baby. You want me to clothe the baby. You want me to, at the same time, stay in shape and beautify myself and do this 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 and do this. You want me to clean the house, cook the food. Can't do it all, basically. Does that make sense? Like they write a list of things to make it seem extremely overwhelming. Does that make sense? Shall guys make that list as well? Shall we make that list as well? That when we're at work, the 50 different things that we have to do, conflicts that we're constantly in, that we're having to resolve, the responsibilities of not just our wife, our children, but our communities, our parents, our siblings that are on top of us. Does that make sense? Like a woman has to run a single household with the help of a husband. She doesn't do it independently. He provides and gives the funding and whatnot. And it's not even like she's on her own. But the guy, he has to run the household from the top. He also has to run his business. He has to, if he's a talib ilm or a person who's trying to seek knowledge or he's active. Because we're talking about, look, a lot of people talk about high value male and alpha male. I'm talking about alpha male right now. You know what I'm saying? If you want your wife to be the right woman, you got to be
The right
the
man.
best possible guy. Does that make sense? So he's active in the community. He's helping his community. He's in the masjid. He's got his parents. He's taking care of his parents. He's probably even taking care of her parents. Does that make sense? Like, guys have got a lot on their shoulders as well. Does that make sense? But we're not, as in, I'm yet to see a day where a guy says, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go to work today. I've just got too much on my plate. Sorry, this week I'm just going to take it off because I've got too much on my plate. But women will regularly take off, this week I just don't feel like prettying myself for you. This week has just been a tough week. I'm not going to clean the house. This week's been a bit of a tough week. I'm just not going to do
That's
X,
not
Y,
necessarily
Z.
a problem if it's every now and again, because it's true. People have ups and downs. Even
Right.
a guy will have an ups and
But
downs
we're
sometimes.
talking about a
We're
consistent.
talking about making it a consistent thing. But also, we're also not saying that all these things are easy. It's not easy to raise a child and run a house and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not easy to do what men do. But
Right.
you just need to know, this is my role. This is my responsibility. I just got to grip my teeth and just get
and
through
just
it.
done with. Because here's the thing.
It's
now.
not easy. No one's saying it's easy. It's not easy. But nothing worth having is
No,
easy.
but actually, it's also not hard. Like, if you look at a lot of sisters who are not able to do this, a lot of it comes down to time management. Like, for example, ask the sisters who struggle with this to look at their phones and how much time do they spend on their phone. You know, the battery, I don't know about Samsung's, but on the iPhone, you can see how much time you spend on certain apps.
Screen time.
Yeah, screen time. So they will see, look how long they are on Netflix. Look how long they are on Instagram. Look how long they are on this. Actually, hours of the day are being wasted there.
Netflix, by the way, is, for women and women that uncovered and stuff.
Yeah,
like
we
that.
don't. I'm not promoting it, but I'm just saying. Unfortunately, they do this stuff, right? So my point is that when they go through it, they are gonna see, if they're truthful and honest to themselves, that they are not prioritizing the things they have to do within the time that they have within the day. Does that make sense? And look, most men are going to be reasonable. And I ask my brothers to have mercy on your wives and be reasonable. And don't expect an absolute perfect standard from them every single day. Like, you give them a break. No one's saying that. Does that make sense? Maybe a day, be intimate with her without her getting dressed up and just appreciate her in the way that she is.
Compliment her and everything.
Right, no problem, inshallah ta'ala. Give her
the point
that
is
time
that,
off.
that general
But the
effort
general
should be there.
rule of thumb is the sister should, because look, let's bring it back to the hadith. Ayyun nisa'i khayr. Which woman is the best? The Prophet was asked, and he described, he said, Allati tasurruhu idha nadara. It's the one that you become happy when you look at her. Now, you're saying it's hard for me to be attractive and beautify myself and look good when my husband looks at me. So you're telling me you don't want to be from the best of women. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَتُطِيعُهُ إِذَا أَمَرَ. She obeys him if he commands her. And the third thing is that she doesn't go against him and disobey him with regards to what? With regards to her wealth and with regards to herself in terms of what he doesn't like. So look, akhi, this is what makes the woman the best of women. Now, it's true, like you said, maybe there is a degree of difficulty and maybe there's a degree of sacrifice, but that's marriage.
That's life. Forget marriage, that's life.
You know what it is? And it's funny because we as men get criminalized for these. It's like we're not allowed to say these things. But akhi, tell me a sacrifice, in a relationship bigger than working the whole week. At the end of the month, let's say you bring home £2,000. From it, you can't even spend 100 on yourself because you spent it all on your family, and you do it happily, and you're proud to do that. It's a responsibility.
You accept it as your job.
It makes you a man. Allah said, "الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وما أنفقوا من أموالهم." The men have been planning to maintain their wives. They spend from what they on them, from the wealth that Allah has given them. But then that's a sacrifice, akhi. And we do it. And the brothers, they do it. And now you have to sacrifice. And it's like, whoa, it's hard for you all of a sudden. It's too hard. You're asking too much of me. Barakallahu feek, sister. You're not being asked for too much.
What it is, the sacrifice of men, generally speaking, are taken for granted. They're just seen as, something, it's normal. It's what he has to do. This is his job. But this is also what you have to do. The same way you're ready to take that for granted. Because if you was to stop that, what would you do? Where would you go? Where would you live?
With all due respect, akhi, where would they be? Where would this world be without men? Now, sarahatan, who fights the wars? Who protects the families? Who's on the border right now, patrolling and protecting the ummah from the enemies coming
Who's the one
in?
that goes into the gutters and the sewers and makes all the...
Yeah, who raised that? Women build these skyscrapers? These malls that you shop in, you built them, sisters? Okay, you
I mean, these days, even though that narrative is trying to be pushed and they're trying to push women into that, but historically
it's not.
and Islamically, the
it's
place of the woman has generally speaking always been the home.
been the home. And even if you're like, oh well, women will do it one day, they haven't up until now. So be grateful to the men for what they've done. So far, does that make sense? Your husband, when he goes out there and he works, he's contributing towards society, towards the economy, towards the deen, towards the ummah, towards you. So at the very least, look good for him when he comes home. And don't criminalize him for wanting to see that.
And remember, gratitude, it's not just mere speech.
Yeah.
As in the Quran, when Allah told the family of Dawood to do shukr.
Yeah.
Shukr is actions. So by you beautifying yourself, that's a form of gratitude. You're showing that I'm grateful for you, my husband, my man, for going out, doing all this, taking all that responsibility and hardship and everything. And instead, we live in a day and age where a man will come home. Number one, his wife's not beautified. Number two, as soon as he walks in, she's in his ear, saying this, all these problems, issues, so on and so forth. It's like, for a man, it's like, why am I doing all of this? I might as well just be single. I'm earning all this money. I'm giving it all here, but I'm not getting anything back. What is the point?
And then he wants to get a second wife. And she becomes what? Frustrated. Or he wants to divorce her. She gets what? Frustrated. Or, and this is not good for the man, and we don't make excuses for the man for doing this, because he has other options. He has the option of divorcing and polygamy. But then what they do is, they go and look for what they don't find in a haram way. They're watching porn. They're having affairs. Does that make sense? And although that man is a shaitan, because he could have divorced his wife and found another woman if it was really a problem that couldn't be solved, or he could have found another woman to marry if his problem couldn't be solved. Because look, we're not saying put up with your wife's, lack of, forthcomingness with regards to what you desire from her. But what we are saying is that there is a way to get out of that. There is a get out clause. Does that make sense? For you to then go and start watching porn, for you to then start and go and do
You also
zina.
don't just jump straight away, oh look, she's not looking good today, divorce.
100%, because
there's a process.
There's a process, right?
It's a long-term thing. You advise her, you speak to her.
I actually want to talk about this.
You need to make sure you're doing it yourself. Yeah. If you're at home, sitting at home like a bum, not having a shower, not getting a haircut, smelling, armpits,
We're gonna come
the
to
hair hasn't been trimmed in who knows how many months, you then can't expect your wife
100%.
to be this supermodel, with all these things
100%.
that you want. It's a two-way thing.
100%. We're going to come to it, inshallah. So the point I'm making is that these guys, although that when they fall into that, they are holding the sin. Oh, but then the woman is also holding that sin as well because she pushed him to it. He jumped, he took the leaf, but she walked into the cliff. He jumped off the cliff, but she walked into the cliff. She walked into the edge of the cliff. She would definitely take home a portion of that on the day of judgment. That sin. Does that make sense?
Do you know what I think another angle to this as well, is that, because I remember there was a video going around, I think it was Donald Trump, I think he's talking about the niqab. He's saying, I think it's amazing, women only have to spend so long getting ready, but with the niqab they can literally just put it on and go out, and that's it, and they're done. And even you'll see people who try to encourage sisters to wear the niqab use this concept of you have to make less effort for yourself because you're covered. Covering you means you make less effort. And I feel like while that's true to an extent in terms of outside, it bleeds into inside the home as well, which is where the problem is, because it's true. When you go out, you're not supposed to be beautified. You're not supposed to do all of these things, but you're meant to do the complete opposite inside. But the problem is that some people just don't understand that, and it kind of, that which is supposed to be on the outside bleeds into the inside, and it's just you just get comfortable, and it's just I just want to go out and in and out.
It's just sad. Look, and like I said, there's a degree of empathy I have for some women, right? They genuinely have some insecurities, issues. Maybe they won't dress up or whatever because they feel body conscious or whatnot, or so on and so forth. But these insecurities can be overcome, and your body issues. If you have issues with regards to your body because you feel overweight, you can solve that by losing weight. How long are they going to keep putting out that card of, me, I feel uncomfortable about my body, or blah, 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 blah. And that's why, okay. But the guy, it takes 6 months to a year to transform your body. And
this day and age, there's a lot of options as well.
Yeah.
Remember we were doing sponsorships. By the way, if you guys want, if you've got a business or something and you want us to feature your business at the front of one of our episodes, at the beginning of one of our episodes rather, then email sponsorships@nasiyasessions.com and inshallah you can have sponsorship on our channel. But we actually had one where it was a sister. What was the name, Aman? Modest Trainer. Modest Trainer. She's a sister. She does online classes where it's women only have to prove that you're a woman to join. You know, men can't join. Fitness, active, getting in shape. You know, they track. Like I actually looked into it. It was actually really good. It was a really, really good service for sisters. Meaning, because some people might say, "Oh, there's no gyms. I can't go out. Free mix, this, that, whatnot." You've got options.
You've got a staircase.
You just have to
Walk up and down. No, honestly.
Some people live in a flat.
I mean, you can
Actually,
buy those steps.
Steps. Yeah.
It's like three.
Of course,
steps,
options are there. The point I'm making is there's
Akhi,
options there.
You know, there's something called resistant band training.
Literally,
you don't even need weights no
resistant
more.
bands, yeah.
You don't even need weights no more. Does that make sense?
Use your own body weight, push-ups,
diet.
stuff like that.
You know what it is?
Diet is huge.
It's the biggest.
Like, it's huge.
It's the biggest.
People underestimate. You're eating all these processed foods, junk foods, and all of these.
And here's the thing, it just requires a bit of effort. Go online.
Learn how to cook. Good food.
Yeah, good food. Research.
Organic.
Nutrition.
Natural.
Exercise. Health. Speak to someone. Find someone. The point is, if you actually want to know, you will find out. You will find out. Does that make sense? One thing I want to discuss, Akhirah, is how should brothers deal with these kind of situations?
Once they're married or before marriage, or when they're looking for a spouse?
No, we're talking about once they're married, right? Obviously,
Okay.
obviously when he... Yeah.
So first, what would you recommend? Because obviously, you can't go up to a sister and say to her, like, how often do you shave? Do you tan your body? You know,
She
do you
should,
squat?
those are things that you shouldn't have to even ask. Like, women should just know. As in, this is the thing in it. Like, one thing I was reading is actually this book right here, Sheikh Sulaiman al-Ruhaili, Hafidhullah Ta'ala. He wrote this book, which is about married life between husband and wife. And I was reading the section here where he talked about beautification. You know, he actually said, this is a responsibility on the wali of the girl to give her, the guardian of the girl, to give his daughter the tarbiyah, the upbringing of how to be as a wife. Like, let me be very, very clear with you guys, and let me say explicitly, not in a vulgar way, but in an explicit way, not an illicit way, explicit way, meaning direct. Yeah, marriage, nikah, it means the contract that makes the private parts of the husband and the wife permissible for each other. This is a contract that makes intimacy. It's a transaction that makes intimacy halal.
That's like if you strip away all the you know,
this is what it is.
The romanticism and the niceness. The base fundamental of the contract is that you pay a mahar and she becomes halal for you.
Yeah, because because
there's witnesses, imam, but
because
that's the base.
Because everything else a man can get,
but you can't get
from elsewhere, and everything else the woman can get from elsewhere.
But intimacy, you can't.
Intimacy is the only thing that they can get from each other. That's what makes this unique. You can get intimacy from a shaitana outside, but it's haram.
It's haram, yeah.
And this is halal. So
not only is it halal, it's worship.
Yeah, it's worship.
You get rewarded.
It's wajib. It's obligatory.
You get rewarded.
There's a level to which it's obligatory.
That's what I'm saying. You get rewarded for intimacy here.
But now here's the thing. A lot of sisters, I don't know what they walk into marriage. Like, you're walking into marriage. Like, let me just be so like, just let me play that father figure role. You're walking into marriage. This is a relationship built upon intimacy and desire and passion and lust for one another. Does that make sense? Now, they say, al-labib, that the smart one, yafham bil ishara, will understand without you having to spell it out. As in, they will get the hint. If that's what this relationship is about, then all that which comes with it, looking good, beautifying yourself, staying in shape, are all necessary components of this relationship. And if a guy is in a relationship and he's not receiving this from his wife and he's advising her, he should run through the Quranic process. Number one, فَعِذُوهُنْ. He should do what?
Admonish her.
He should admonish her, meaning remind her, advise her, sit with her, explain it to her. She still doesn't get it, then what?
Forsake her bed.
He should forsake her bed. Does that make
Silent
sense?
treatment.
Yeah, he should not sleep with her. You know, no intimacy. And that gives a big message. Does that make sense? And then so on and so forth. And if, for example, it gets to a point where reconciliation doesn't look like it's going to happen, Allah says, وَإِن خِفْتُمْ شِقَاقَ بَيْنِهِمَا فَابْعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهَا إِن يُرِيدَا إِصْلَاحًا يُوَفِّقِ اللَّهُ بَيْنَهُمَا. Then you bring someone from her family, someone from his family, they judge between them. I.e., you get judgment, you get that help. if reconciliation can happen at this stage. If not, you go your separate ways. The point I'm making is don't tolerate it, brother. Don't just sit there. You know why? Because you deserve better. I'm talking to a guy who deserves it in the first place, by the way.
That's what I was going to say.
We're going to talk about the guys in a
say.
second. Does that make sense? But come on, Akhi, man.
If you're doing your bit,
Mm.
that's the least.
that you deserve.
That's the least that you deserve.
That, wallahi. You deserve that. Let's keep it real, bro. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what the feminists are going to say. And even worse, what makes me sicker is the male feminists. I don't, like,
no, but what's even sicker is that there's this whole flower dawah, right?
Can I just say, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, yeah? I don't really know Asim al-Hakim. I don't know him in details. I don't know him like that, okay? And obviously I don't know his da'wah. I don't know him and what he pushes or whatnot, so on and so forth, okay? I know a lot of people watch his videos. I saw a Facebook post. I was very disappointed that he sent. That someone asked him a question. You know, a woman asked a question that my husband wants me to lose weight or beautify or something, and wallahi, he criminalized the brother. He made in his response men feel ashamed to want this. Now, this is not me attacking him, like I said, I don't know him, and you know, inshallah, we hope khair.
Generally speaking, what I've seen of it, I've only ever seen good from him.
Look, no problem. Like I said, Ustad Abu Taymi is a very, very good friend, brother, Salafi Sunni brother. I'm about to make a refutation on him with regards to the issue of hijrah because of the video that he made.
We're allowed to disagree.
My point is, this is a respectful disagreement. This is not an attack. This is not an insult. Yeah. But
you just disagreed with the position that he took.
I disagree with that position that he took there. And I just feel like that's so incorrect and it's unfair for men to be made to feel like bad for wanting his wife to look good.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was about to say. You know, this concept of flower dawah, there's a lot of du'at out there. I'm not saying that Sheikh Asim al-Hakim comes under this. I'm just saying, generally speaking, there's a lot of du'at out there, especially, you know, of the
Mufti Menks and the time, Umar Suleimans and Yasir Qadis and those guys.
I mean, yeah, so there's a lot of du'at out there.
What do you expect from people? Yeah, what do you expect from people? I mean, they got Tawheed and Shirk wrong.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, look, so there's a lot of people out there who are there. Well, sometimes it seems like you just want to please the sisters. Because at the end of the day, who are the ones that turn up the most to the events? The sisters. Who are the ones who buy the courses the most? The sisters.
Who are the ones who donate their husband's money to your projects?
The sisters. So at the end of the day, it's in your interest to keep the sisters happy, right? So there's a lot of the time you find...
It's not just that, it's deeper than that. It's also from a political perspective. Like, these men know that
the support in the
feminist,
community,
liberal, pro, maybe not pro, but you know, sympathetic towards LGBTQ plus movement kind of da'wah, that progressive da'wah is something where they will get help from the government, they will get funding from the government. Like, you know, Yaqeen Institute, all these, they get. Look at the kind of funding they get and where they get it from. Does that make sense?
Grants and stuff like that.
The grants from the governments and whatnot. So they have to do this, you know.
But the bottom line is that whatever the reason why they do it, but there's a lot of this, you know, I want to say it's anti-men, but it's like, it's just like, I don't know how to even vocalize it. It's just, you're so... like, just, I don't, like, how would you even describe it? It's just like...
emasculated.
Whatever, I don't know what that means.
They've lost their manliness. They've lost their manhood, akhi.
But it's just like, you just come across in a way where it's just like, you're just here to please sisters. Even if it's at the expense, even of the truth.
You know what's sad, akhi, is that these lot... recently, obviously...
And I'm not, by the way, like I said, I'm not...
Recently, there's been this Red Pill movement, which I disagree with. Because what? Although I understand the grievances behind which
the same way in a certain context you can understand some of the grievances why sisters go towards feminism. Of course, we disagree with feminism. Same way we disagree with
my point is
Red Pill.
The same way I say feminists, you're being oppressed, right? That's what you're saying, right?
But Islam is the solution.
Islam's solution.
Same way with men.
Red Pill, you're
Islam
oppressed,
is
right?
the solution.
Islam's solution. But my point is that since the rise of this movement and you know, certain personalities, like this kickboxer guy who's come out, I won't mention his name, but a lot of people have been watching his videos.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? And he's pushing these kind of things. It's kind of like, that's opening people's eyes. But if we mention the ayah that says that, or the hadith that says that, or gives that, it's like, oh no, does that make sense? But when it comes from a kafir and becomes mainstream, people start to be less antagonistic towards that kind of a narrative. But when it comes from Islam, then the narrative is something that they want to kind of, come up against. Ala kullin, I think times are changing. I think a lot of khair is going to come, inshallah ta'ala.
I think, as I said, men have to have certain standards as well. Obviously, and sisters as well, yeah? But because we're talking in the context of wives, men before marriage have to have a certain standard, because the reason why people think this is okay and why this has been running for so long is because people have allowed it to. The fact that you're marrying someone who isn't doing all of these things beforehand, you're normalizing that behavior.
Barakallah fi akhi. So that's my, you just brought light to something very important, and I want to make sure we drive this home, because right now we're talking about how should brothers deal with a situation like this, right? As a general rule of thumb, I just want to mention to you, the overwhelming majority of grievances that men have from women in this day and age, the solution to those problems is men.
Say that one more time. The overwhelming majority
of grievances that men have from women,
have from women.
Yeah. So, for example, issues that come from feminism, women disobeying in the household, blah blah blah. The overwhelming majority.
They root back to men.
No,
because it was a man that didn't raise her properly. It was a man that didn't.
Not just basically. So then the solution,
father didn't do it properly.
The solution is the man. From many angles. Number one, raise your daughters properly. Be a proper husband to your wife. Number three, brother, be a slave that fears Allah. You know why? Because Allah says, "Man yattaqillah yaj'al lahu makhraja." Whoever fears Allah, Allah will find a way out for him. وَيَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ, and provide for him from a place that he never imagined. You turn to Allah, you beg Allah, you ask Allah. Imam Ibn al-Arabi, not Ibn Arabi, Ibn Arabi without Alif Lam was a kafir Sufi. Ibn al-Arabi was a Maliki scholar, and he mentioned that a righteous wife doesn't come from your efforts, rather it is a rizq from Allah. The same way the rain doesn't come down based on your effort, and the fruit doesn't grow based on your effort. Right? That it comes from Allah Azza wa Jal, even though you take the means. Likewise, you take the means to find the righteous wife, but she comes from Allah. Another way that men can handle this is, akhi, just have a higher standard. That as in, so many akhi guys are in relationships. Yeah. Obviously, look, it gets a bit technical when there's kids involved. And now I would say be patient, maybe, depending on the circumstances.
I mean, each situation's got its own. And you take it to a
But I'm talking about as a rule of thumb, you've gotten married, this woman, she's not doing the basics that you need for her. Akhi, you have enough of a higher standard about yourself to say, I don't need to live with this.
If you're fulfilling all of
all
the rights she has over you.
Right, because you don't have the right to ask for what you don't give yourself. Does that make sense? Because Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, that for the women is exactly what is for the men. وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةً, but the men have a daraja above the women, a station above the women. But whatever you want, she wants too. Whatever is a right for you is a right for her to receive from you as well. So if you are that guy, because we're being fair now, does that make sense? We're not misogynists. We're not just man blindly and this man's a shaitan.
But at the end of the day, even the religion does mention and does allude to the fact that men, generally speaking, are more sexual than women. What I mean by that is, for example, when the Prophet ﷺ, when he mentions, for example, the fitan, he says the fitna for the woman is the dunya, and the fitna for the man is the woman. Sometimes, right. when even when the Prophet spoke generally, he mentioned, the women or the dunya, and it's like the women are part of the dunya. But some of the scholars say the reason why it's mentioned is because for the women it's the dunya, and for the man it's the woman. Meaning for a man, his desires, his fitna is the woman. So for him, that is what he's after. For a woman, and of course there are women out there who might have a higher drive than their husbands or whatever. But we're talking about the general rule. Overall, generally speaking, it's the man that's more into intimacy, good looks, and all of these things. Women are also, but obviously they, the dunya is also a bigger element for them. So for the man, it's even more important to come home and of course, you have to do it yourself as well. No one's denying that. I think we made that very clear. We don't need to keep going on about this disclaimer. But when a man comes home, he needs to see that which is, as I said earlier, equal to or even better than what he's outside. And the thing is, you might be sitting there thinking, like, as a sister, you might think, but like, I've seen the way some of these kuffar look. I can't compete with that or whatever. Trust me, if you gave it your 100%, you would easily jump from a 4 or 5 to a 8. to a 9.
And these are subjective numbers, by the way. And not just that.
And of course, your husband married you
because he likes you in the first place.
And he found you attractive. So all you have to do
It's just
is
amplify
make
it.
sure you amplify that. Forget amplify. Some don't even maintain it. You let the standards drop after marriage.
Wallah, you know what you just said is a very deep point. You know, all of these insecurities on that, wallahi,
your husband would not have married you
if he didn't
find you attractive.
So if you beautify yourself for him now, you're only going to be more than the day he met you and looked at you.
Exactly.
At your dad's house.
He chose you out of all these other sisters, out of all these other women. He chose you for a reason. Of course, your deen and everything is, but also your looks. You're not going to marry a completely, butters woman just because. Because at the end of the day, it's important to also have the physical attraction there as well.
100%.
So the fact that he even married you shows you already he's into you.
And by the way, beauties and, as you use the word, butters, and these are subjective terms.
These are subjective
and
terms.
wallahi, they really are.
They really are.
Wallahi billahi, they really are. Does that make sense? But yeah, so like I said, have a higher standard, brother. And you know what I'm saying? I honestly feel like if men lift their standards, generally, it will force the women to lift their standards.
100%.
Like honestly, if men just lifted the standard that they hold themselves to and the standard they expect from their wives, which is of course within reason,
it's like even in the Quran when Allah mentions...
then automatically women, because they want to be with men. Does that make sense? They raise that standard. And also just to mention, like sisters, there are way more sisters out there than men. Does that make sense? So you got a lot of competition. You got competition, my sister. Does that make sense? Because either you're going to be a man's second, third wife, or you're going to be lonely. Does that make sense? Or you're going to get married not for your husband, right? He's going to divorce you and find someone else. My point is, this is and by the way a lot of sisters are moving in this day and age, the competition ain't even too tough. It just depends on whether you want to be you just want to race. You know what I'm saying? You just want to get in the race. If you just have to do a little bit to stand out, because most of the sisters, unfortunately, are not doing what they need to. So there is a lot of competition out there, but just put in a little bit of effort, and you're going to skyrocket to the top.
And like even Islamic, I think in the Quran it's mentioned, like righteous people for righteous people. A righteous man is for a righteous woman. The mushrik woman is for the mushrik man. As in, you are for what, and you will get what you are. Right? You follow what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
She looked at me blank out for maybe I made a mistake.
No, I wandered off for a second.
Okay, I think it's Surah Nur or Surah Mu'minun. Surah Nur, right?
Yeah.
The point being is that
you're talking about the pure
is for the pure. So the point I'm making is that you are, how they say you are what you eat. Like you get what you give.
Okay,
like whatever you do, like you as a man, you hit the gym. You've got the right to demand that from.
Exactly.
And so it's like, as long as you're doing your bit, then you have every right to expect the same from your spouse. But if you're not, then
should we chat to the guys now?
Yeah.
About the smelly breath and stinky armpits.
Yeah. Slap yourself to the brothers. If you're not.
I'll be honest with you. And this is what I really think, inshallah, if people watch Relationship Goals from the beginning to the end, it will be a nice balance, wallahi.
This episode, or you mean
just generally,
Relationship
Goals, just generally as a series. So there's a hadith in which they came to ask Aisha, I think Shuraik, rahimahullah ta'ala, he came to ask Aisha radiallahu anha about what? About the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What would be the first thing he would do when he would come inside of the house? And Aisha radiallahu anha, she explained that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would come inside of the house, كان يبدأ النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا دخل بيته قالت بالسواك. He would start off by cleaning his teeth. So you've just come home, akhi. Okay, and by the way, you have to understand. Okay, there are some things that are very important to men and important to women. Some things more important to men, some things more important to women. One thing that even if you may not be the most attractive looking guy, but it's such a turn off for women, is your smell. You've just come home. Your breath has changed from when you were outside. Allah knows what you ate, what garlic, what onions you ate. Akhi, man, fear Allah. You've come to your house.
You're not even allowed to go to the masjid to pray salah in that state, and you're coming home to your wife. This is because there's going to be a guy next to you whose mouth is going to be at least, half a meter away from you, and you're not allowed to do that. So imagine with your wife, you're going to come, you're going to kiss her in the mouth.
You want to touch her. Yeah, you want your mouth to touch her. You want her to smell you. Like the Prophet ﷺ, out of all of the things he could have done when he came to the house first, When he came to the house, he could have started with a salah. He could have started with reading Quran. He could have. The Prophet ﷺ, look at all of his sunan. Billah alayk, look at all of his sunan. Look at all of his traditions. All of the actions that he would do. The first thing he would do when he would come to his house is he was clean his teeth for his wife. He would be conscious of his smell. Does that make sense? So likewise, brothers, if you come home and your mouth is smelling, obviously brush your teeth when you come home or use a siwak. But some you come home with BO. Go take a shower. Like, you know, the woman, you're like, oh, my wife, she's repulsed by me or whatnot, or she feels uncomfortable, or she doesn't want to embrace me. Okay, you want this woman to be looking 10-10 when you come home. Obviously, you want to embrace her, hug her, touch her, hold her, right? But you stink. You're sweaty. You smell. Does that make sense? And it may, and you know what it is? A lot of the times, I'll tell you something. Well, like, guys become desensitized to their own smell. Women are quite sensitive when it comes to smell.
Wallahi, it's so true.
Yeah.
A guy, I've met so many brothers.
Yeah.
Astaghfirullah. They stink. And they don't even realize it, bro. They're hugging you, you know, everything like, you know. He's mad. And I'm there like, bro, like,
you stink, brother.
And it makes me think like, wait, like, I don't smell like that, do I? Like
yeah.
You know, and it's just like, bro, that's not normal. But for them, it's become normal to them. It's mad, I'll be honest with you.
It is a problem. And it's like, you should have a routine. And by the way, look, some people might have issues with perspiration. Well, when you come home, go wash yourself straight away. Just jump in the shower. Jump in the shower.
Carry around.
Bathe for your woman. Does that make sense? Like, it's not a hard thing. Like, when you come home, just that extra 5, 10, 15, that's her right as well, you know. And I'm going to mention the daily, that's her right.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact the Prophet did it is enough. But I'm going to mention, when I bring you the statement of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu in a second, but it's her right, akhi.
So let me give you an example, right? And you know, it's just, this is all, you know when you come across a brother and you give him a hug and he smells good, mashallah, you're smelling good, you know. Like,
that's how you feel as a man, no homo.
That's what I'm saying.
Imagine a girl.
And
she's
like,
going to be clinging on to you, akhi.
I'll give you an example. So recently, Ustad Abdurrahman Hassan was here in the UK, right? And it wasn't like a public tour. Like, there wasn't any lectures or classes like that. I think he did 1 or 2 small things here and there. But I let him use my car, right? So then when I've picked it up back from him, in the cup holder, he left, there was a perfume. It was like an aftershave, some oud one. It smelled really nice. And the fact that he was carrying that around with him, knowing that, you know, make sure I have to smell nice. And then it's funny because that was once I sent a picture of it. He said, look, what do you want me to do with it? He said, look, just give it to one brother or whatever. Yeah, because he left to go back to his country. And then later on, I was putting something else into the, you know, the arm holder, and it opens up. And look, there was another. This one was a spray.
MashaAllah.
Same brand and everything, whatnot. But just to show the importance
of fragrance.
Obviously, these are people who we see as role models, right? People of knowledge, people who understand the deen. They themselves, even the scholars. I remember Sheikh Asim al-Qayyuti. Whenever we meet him, he's smelling good.
Allahu Akbar.
He's smelling good. You sense that, and like, even as a man, you feel obviously not attracted, but as in, for you, it's like
you feel happy, comfortable. It's like
not comfortable, but it's also like, whoa, like it reminds you, like, wait, I need to. This is like I should be setting the standard for myself as well. Like, why is it that when I hug people, they don't say to me, "Is it because I smell like?" Is it because I smell like?
By the way, Allah Barik, Abu Bakr's got one serious Dolce Gabbana oud fragrance. Allah Barik.
Keep that private, inshallah. Allah Barik.
I'm just saying, my brother smell good.
But there's a funny story behind that, right? I was in the UAE and I was at the duty free. And then
you randomly got it. You didn't even.
No, and you know, it said exclusive edition on it. I like my D&G generally, and the sales guy comes over. He goes, "This one, you won't find it anywhere else. Exclusive. It's got Arabic writing on it. It's you know, this one place." And then that was when UAE was on the red list. So instead of coming here and spending $750 on a hotel, I went to Malta for 10 days. And I'm leaving Malta. I went to duty free and I see the exact same one there. And I'm thinking, bro, I've got sold a dream, but. It was worth it. I can't lie. It's not banging. But the guy oversold it though. He was like, yeah, it's exclusive.
But yeah, man. So like the point is, you gotta look good. You gotta smell good, akhi. Like, you know, like why are you putting on weight? Umar radiallahu anhu saw a guy who had a stomach, and he said, "What is this?" And the man touched his belly.
This is a blessing from Allah.
This is a blessing. And he said, "No, this is a curse.
A punishment."
He said, "Yeah, it's a punishment." What are you doing, akhi? Don't be proud of this.
Hit the gym.
Hit the gym, akhi. Work hard. Burn it off. Be good, as in,
And by the way,
even when it comes to intimacy,
yeah.
bro, like a woman, she
Well, we need to
wants,
wrap it up going to leave soon. Yeah.
a woman, she wants her husband to be strong, like with regards to the bedroom, like to be able to hold her, energy, stamina wise. Does that make sense? Like he's running out of breath. She's having to do all the work. Does that make sense? Like, come on, bro. If you can't even like pick up your wife. Now, some of you might not be able to pick her up, and that's her fault. Does that make sense? But come on, at the very least, like I'm saying, you should be, I'm saying, strong, work out. I want to mention to you the statement from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. He said, "Inni uhib an atazayyana lil mar'a." He said, certainly I love to look good for my wife. I love to make myself look good for my wife. Does that make sense? كما أحب أن تتزين لي المرأة. The way that I love for my wife to look good for me, to beautify herself for me. What's the evidence? He said, لأن الله تعالى يقول ولهن مثل الذي عليهن بالمعروف. He said, and this ayah is beautiful, and I'm going to leave this ayah, I'm going to leave it here, yeah? On this ayah, inshallah ta'ala. Allah said, ولهن. If you guys made it to the end, you're going to take a fa'idah away. If whoever didn't make it to the end, they're going to miss out on a huge benefit. The evidence that Ibn Abbas used that he should beautify himself for his wife, the way that he wants her to beautify herself for him. Allah said, وَلَهُنَّ, that for them is مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, is, as in for the woman, you have to do for her what you want her to do for you. It is for her. She has the right to receive from you what you have the right to receive from her. The point here, Akhi, is who did Allah start off with?
The man.
The man doing what?
You doing what you want from her.
You doing what? So Allah started off with the right of the man or the right of the woman?
The right of the woman.
The right of the woman.
Yeah, from the man.
وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. That you do for them what you want them to do for you. Pay attention now.
You have to be the role model.
You have to set the pace. You want her to be positive and smiling when you come home.
And that's what earlier on when we were saying.
You set the standard.
Yeah, no. So when we were giving the example of, if she's not doing X, Y, Z, that's if you're setting the standard. Yeah. If you're doing your bit, you're hitting the gym, you're building that body, you're getting big, you're doing all of this. And
it doesn't have to be you're getting big. Just
not
be
necessarily
in
big,
shape.
but just being in shape. And you're
be healthy.
Whatever it is, you're fulfilling all the other rights, financial and everything and whatnot. And then she's still not doing that.
Yeah.
That's when you got to think.
That's when it's a problem. Does that make sense?
What's going on here?
Do you know what I'm saying?
This is not right.
Like if you're doing all of that and she's still not, she's been hard-headed, self-centered, narcissistic.
And likewise with
lazy.
sisters, if you're doing what we've just said, you're the one there beautifying yourself, you're dressing up, getting your makeup proper, whatever it might be, whatever your husband finds attractive, you're doing all of that, and yet he's still there looking like a bum and this, that, one, and else. You got the rights to dress that with him as well. And if that's a problem, even some of the scholars say that when it comes to intimacy and stuff, or even a woman can ask for a khulaq because she's not satisfied by her husband.
Yeah, but we don't ever push people to go get divorced, go get khulaq.
Divorce
does
or
that make sense? It's more
like that.
Solve the problem. But sometimes the problem is not solvable. Does that make sense? So I'm saying every complaint that you have from her, make sure that she don't have that complaint from you. Because actually, like the women,
it's a principle in the religion. Al-jaza'u jinsil amal.
Remember, the reciprocation is a human trait. If you do good to me, I will be inclined to automatically do good too. Sometimes guys walking up and down the street, screw facing, I will just smile. Imagine, random situations with them aggy looking guys walking with a hood. I might just smile. But, one of them was like, what I'm saying? Just a little nod, and the guy will smile back at me.
That was a smile. That looked a bit aggy. I can't lie. Man was like, oh, you. For all, like,
no, I would smile.
Okay.
You know what it was like? Them ones. Like
okay, on them ones.
And guy would and this aggy looking guy would just smile back. Or if he won't smile back, he'll just nod back at me. Like,
you gotta be careful because these days, if you start smiling, like, man.
My point is
that's the wrong way.
My point is
must start winking at you now.
My point is human beings reciprocate. Does that make sense? We reciprocate. Like even me and you are sitting right now. Like subconsciously, if I didn't mention this and I lean forward, you would start leaning forward as well. Because human beings are like that. We connect with each other on a subconscious level. So my point is that you do for her, set the pace, she'll reciprocate back for you. Does that make sense? She'll probably do more. But then there's a few things here, Akhi. Number one, she's got to be a woman that is tazawwaj al-wadud al-waluda. She's got to be the one the Prophet said marry, who's endearing. She wants to please her husband. If she doesn't even want to please her husband, you could do whatever you want. Intrinsically, there's something wrong with the woman. Does that make sense? If she's a stubborn woman, she's a hard-headed woman, there's intrinsic problems there. You can do whatever you want, but that's obviously beyond the scope of our discussion.
And for the brothers, if you're interested in learning how to become a real man, how to do all of these things. You might be thinking, where do I start? How do I go about it? Well, by the time this comes out, will the Badr Club have launched?
Nah.
Nah. Okay.
But no. It's gonna launch in the next few weeks though.
That's what I'm saying.
So
So
they should
make sure you follow on Instagram at the Badr Club.
Currently, no
on
girls
the screen.
allowed.
Yes, it's for men only. The platform is going to be for men only. The advice and the whole point of it is teaching our dear respected brothers, our dear brothers who are in this ummah, how to become real men. We focus on 5 things in terms of your deen, in terms of your wealth, in terms of your health, that's physical, and also your mental health, and also your relationships. And that covers your spouse, your family, your siblings, your friends, the society, community, all of that is going to come under there, inshallah. And that's not something that you guys are going to want to miss out on. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that. So with that said, I think we'll conclude it there. Alhamdulillah, it's been an enjoyable podcast. I'm looking forward to the future of relationship goals. Don't forget, guys, Sunnah Match, the promo code is going to be in the description.
I just want to mention something to look forward to, guys, in the future podcasts. One of the things that we're going to be talking a lot about is polygamy. The reason we're going to be talking about that is because I used to really not...
You've got some repenting to do.
Yeah.
You've got a public retraction to make.
Yeah.
We'll come to that.
Yeah.
Let's save it for the podcast. Don't worry. We'll save it for the future podcast when that one comes.
I just want to say I'm sorry, brothers.
We accept your apology, but we want more. We want a PDF. We want a PDF we're going to write out.
Now, don't worry. The way I campaigned that way, I'm going to campaign harder this way, inshallah.
Don't worry.
I'll make you look happy, inshallah.
We'll see that, inshallah. So, we'll leave it there and we'll see you guys on the next episode of Relationship Goals. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.